Hi guys, welcome back to Tactical Insights. Hey, today we're out here at the Isaac Walton League in Anamosa, Iowa, out at the range. Actually, as you can see outside, finally got some decent weather. We can get out here and shoot some videos. We're going to be shooting a bunch of videos outdoors this summer so you guys can kind of see what we do and where we shoot. One of the videos I promised everybody I would do was a review video of the Glock 42, which is the Glock 380 that's come out here in the last 6 months or so. So what I did today is I brought several pistols out that I want to compare the three of them together. We're going to do a little shooting, talk a little bit about them, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, obviously the first thing we want to discuss when we talk about the 380s is the size. One of the biggest things that came out when Ruger decided that they were going to come out with a 380 LCP was that everybody looked at it and decided, man, this is the thing I got to have. It fits right in my pocket, fits right in the purse, I can hide it anywhere I want to go. Suddenly, size became a big issue for everybody. So one of the first things we want to look at, I've got the three different ones here today that I'm carrying. I've got the Ruger LCP 380, which many of you are very aware of. Many of you probably carry this one. I also have the Bodyguard Smith&Wesson 380, which is a recent acquisition that we've got. We've put a few rounds through it over the last couple of months to kind of play with it, get used to it. And then obviously today we've got the Glock 42. Between the three of them, you notice right away when you take a look, not a lot of difference. I'm not going to talk specs and all the millimeters and all that, because you can certainly look all that stuff up online, and I'm not interested in discussing which one is 1 millimeter wider than the other one. One thing that I noticed right away was the grip on them. One of the biggest complaints I had when I first got the Ruger was obviously the shortness of the grip. Now, when somebody with hands like mine gets on there, we all know everybody complains that they can't really get a hold of it, and that didn't really get solved with the Glock, but it did expand it a little bit. Now, with an extended magazine plate, it gives you a little bit extra here, so it's not necessarily a solve, but it absolutely made a little bit of a difference. For me, one of my favorite pieces on that, as I looked at the Smith&Wesson Bodyguard, the distance between the trigger and the back strap here. This is one of the biggest problems that I have always found with handguns, that distance between where the web of my hand and that trigger finger go out here, where they hit, changes whether or not I'm able to really function that handgun or not well. One of the problems that I had with the Smith&Wesson Bodyguard right away was that I really can't get my hand into it, and when I do, the distance between here and there gives me way too much trigger finger when I want to get out and pull the trigger. As we go to this Glock, one of the things you notice, it's got a really strong back strap, really deep, that gives us a good purchase for our hand in here. So that was one of the things I liked right away when I picked it up. Of course, I'll be up front and honest, I'm not a Glock fanboy. I do shoot a lot of Glocks, I enjoy Glocks, and I was excited to feel this one, so I did have a little bit of an edge when I picked it up. I had an expectation, and it hasn't let me down so far. Okay, let's talk triggers. The biggest problem that I've had with all of the body carry pistols, or all of the, whatever you want to call the concealed carry pistols, the biggest problem I have had with each and every one of them has been trigger. One of the things with the Smith&Wesson Bodyguard, you notice if you watch my trigger finger, I can pull and pull and pull and pull and pull before that thing is going to activate. It seems like you continue to pull. As a matter of fact, the first time my wife picked up the Smith&Wesson Bodyguard on this very range, she reached out and she pulled and pulled and pulled and actually asked, is it going to go off by the time it actually fired? So that's one of the obvious, for you guys that are shooting these pistols, you know that trigger on either one, that double action trigger where it's going to have to activate all the way back and then has to release before it fires, with a big hand gives you a lot of purchase on that trigger that you really have to squeeze in and get a hold of. The big advantage to the striker fired Glock is obviously if we want to activate that trigger, it's as simple as any other Glock you fire. When you pull the trigger, it gives you the click. So the first thing I noticed when I started shooting was that automatic, that striker fire, when it that striker fire trigger that just gives us the quick activation as opposed to having to pull double action all the way through every time. All right, let's talk magazines. Magazines, we didn't gain a lot with the Glock 42, except that if you look at the Glock 42 magazine, it is just like every other Glock magazine you've ever seen. It's a little slimmer, little thinner, but it's really just a Glock magazine just like the rest of them. It's made out of the same polymer. It's got your indicators on the back. It is set up for dual magazine release. It's like all the Gen 4 Glocks are. Really didn't gain any ammunition capacity. 6+1 in the Glock, 6+1 in the Smith&Wesson, 6+1 in the Ruger. Really the same thing. This is a personal preference thing for the kind of the chintziness of magazines. We all have dealt with magazines. We know that most of our weapon malfunctions probably we can trace back to either ammunition or a magazine right off the bat. One of the best things about the Glocks is when we get up here to these solid magazines. I prefer them over the all-metal magazines. Now, Sig Sauer had some good all-metal magazines. There's some out there. But I was much more impressed with the solid Glock magazine as I was over the Smith&Wesson or the Ruger LCP. All right, guys, we've run our mouth long enough. We're going to go ahead and put some rounds down range. We're going to start with the Smith&Wesson Bodyguard 380. We're going to put a magazine down of it. Then we're going to do a magazine of the Ruger LCP, followed up immediately by the Glock 42. So, without further ado, we'll put some rounds down range and we'll talk about what we saw.
You think you can hit it at that distance? I would hope. 10 yards with an ACOG? Did you hit it?
I hit that one, but I also hit that rock out.
All right, Smith&Wesson Bodyguard 380. First thing you notice is every time I pulled the trigger, all the way back, double click release before you were ready to pull it again, which really gives that long pull in between. Now, the problem that being is if you really want to snap shoot this thing, one of the things I discovered was the faster I start pulling the trigger, the less likely I am to hit a follow-up shot because I've really got to work that trigger. The other issue, obviously, no lock back. Okay, Ruger LCP, same thing. Very similar pistol to the to Smith&Wesson Bodyguard. We're going to put some rounds down through it, see if you notice any difference.
Safety's off, you're ready to go. It has a nice...
Again, you notice no lock back, as well as this one really has a lot of snap to it, a lot of recoil. All right, guys, Glock 42, the one we kind of been waiting on. Let's put a few rounds through it. I'm gonna put a couple magazines through it, kind of see what the difference is. You notice right away a lot faster follow-up shots on the trigger reset on the Glock 42. All right, guys, we took a few minutes. We put a few rounds through all three handguns. I'll be perfectly honest when I say when I came into this video, I expected a certain thing out of the Glock. I was not disappointed in any way. Probably a little bit biased on them as I was really unhappy with both the Ruger LCP and the Smith&Wesson Bodyguard through all the shooting that I did with it. I've been really impressed with the little Glock 42. Looking forward to carrying it for a while. We're gonna put a bunch of rounds through it. I'll let you know after we've run somewhere around 1,000, 1,500 rounds through one how it's really holding up. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you next time.